Hello, 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 my people. So, you want to be a leader, right? What does it take to be a leader? You can't just decide, you just wake up one morning and decide you just want to be a leader. It doesn't happen like that, okay? And it's so important that you know what's required. And so that's why I'm here today. I'm going to coach you guys through this, okay? So, leadership. What does it take? All right. So the first thing is you got to have knowledge. You've decided you want to be a leader. You feel like you're being called to be a leader. Well, whatever you're leading in, you've got to have the knowledge. You can't just decide, oh, I'm gonna be a leader of cooks, and you don't and never cooked a meal in your life, or I'm gonna be the leader of a nursery, and you never babysat, you never had a baby, you never babies, you never kept a child. You cannot be a leader of people that in a specific topic that you're not familiar with. You have to have knowledge. And you have to also be willing to continue to gain more knowledge. You may have enough knowledge to lead, but you want to always stay on target and on point with learning more about whatever topic you're leading in. Okay. That's the first thing. You got to have the knowledge of the group that you're going to be leading and the topic that you're going to be leading in. Yeah. Yeah, got to. That's a requirement. That's a obvious. That's a given, right? Yeah. Don't try to lead when you have never been led in the topic that you're trying to lead in, okay? Or you have no knowledge in that topic. That's number two. You got to have experience. You got to should have been exposed to this knowledge, this wealth of knowledge in reference to wanting to lead these people. You've got to have the experience. It could be a paid job, or it could be a volunteer job, or it could be something in reference to you getting the experience. You can't lead unless you've been led, as I said earlier, and you cannot have the knowledge unless you have the experience, right? Yeah. You know what? What if I just decide tomorrow morning that I want to be a leader in politics, but I've never been involved with politics except for voting, hitting them buttons on that ballot. For real? Yes. No. That's a no. You got to have experience in the area that you want to be leading in. It's a given. How can your people that are up under you come in and ask you questions when you've never had experience and you don't know what you're talking about? It's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. We going to Google it or ask somebody. You've got to have the experience and the exposure to be able to lead other people. Number three, you've got to be committed. You've got to be committed. You woke up, you decided I want to lead this particular area or lead in this particular area and gather people together up under me to lead them. Well, you know what? You got to be committed to it because whether there's 400 people up under you or one person up under you or no people up under you, you've got to be committed to making sure that the work gets done. There are so many companies where the leader has to cover the gap when employees don't show up, team players don't show up. That leader has to be willing to stand in the gap to make sure that the bottom line is the work is going to get done. You can't, be a leader of an organization or a group of people and they all don't show up and then you decide you just not going to show up either. Because when all is said and done, you are held accountable. And so therefore you've got to show up and show out and make sure that that work gets done. So commitment to whatever group that you're leading, you've got to be committed. Not just interested, because an interested person, they just gonna do it where it's all when the weather's good. But when the weather and the storms, change up on you, and you like, oh, I quit. I give up. Ain't no need to keep on moving. There is. There are many businesses that remain successful because during the COVID season, they didn't shut down. They kept on pushing, even though business was less or slower. They still kept pushing until they now are back to where they were before the COVID season. That's a good leader, determined to make a success of whatever organization they're leading in spite of all the obstacles that come their way. You've got to be committed. Number four, the ability to shift. Things happen. I just use a perfect example. During COVID, there are many churches, for example, that closed down because they were not ready to shift. They closed down. Yes, there are churches that closed down, y'all. Why? Because financially they were not able and they were not prepared for the shift. Many churches are still using the old school way of taking up offering and tithes. You've got to come and bring your money. Well, when COVID happened, guess what? There were churches that couldn't open their doors because of the laws that were set into place. So how was they going to get the money to continue paying for the lights and the gas and the bills that need to be paid for that church building? They couldn't. But however, there are churches who remain successful. Why? Because before the shift happens, they were ready. They were already electronically savvy. They already had members tithing through online, through electronic ways, through automatic transfers from their bank accounts. They already were electronically sound. So when the doors closed and the law said you cannot open your doors, well, guess what? Still electronically, they were worshiping. They were still giving of their tithes and offerings. They were still worshiping online because they had already started YouTube or Facebook or any other type of social media channel where you could worship with them when electronically, since you couldn't be in the building. So those places remained open. They were ready for the shift. So you've got to think ahead of the game as a leader. You've got to say, what if this happens? How are we going to overcome this? So you've got to have the ability to shift, and even if it happens and you weren't prepared, well, what are you going to do so that you can sustain that, being a leader of that particular organization and it not fail or have to close down? The ability to shift gears, shift, SHIFT. You got to be able to shift as a leader. Okay. You can't say, oh, we don't have any more blue balls. Oh, let's close the doors. No. How about just get some black balls? Say we're out of the blue balls. You shift. Shift happens. You've got to be ready. You've got to be able to do that. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got to lead by example. You've got to lead by example. Whatever you're asking your team to do, you've got to be willing to do it as well. And sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. If you go into fast food restaurants, you'll see the manager, if they're a good leader, well, they'll be out there busting tables, or they might be outside emptying the trash, or they might be sweeping outside. I know when I was a manager of a particular organization, someone had did something really gross in one of the video machines. I worked at an arcade. And so I cleaned it up. I didn't ask any of my subordinates to do it. I cleaned it. So the next time it happened and I asked one of them to do it, they had seen me do it. I had led by example. So therefore they went on and did it and completed the job instead of saying, well, that's nasty. I'm not cleaning that. You could do it. I ain't never seen you do it. Well, you know what? Yes, you did. And we didn't even have to have that conversation because I had already led by example. A good leader leads by example, being willing to get their hands dirty, get in the trenches with your team. Be there to through hell or high water, as they say. Be ready to work with them as a team player and as a leader. The next one, you've got to be a motivator. You've got to be able to pull out the best in each team member. Each team member is different, and their I don't want to say love language, but their work language may be different. Some, may need that kudos and that celebration and an acknowledgement, and some, just want that pat on the back, or some just want that good old boy thumbs up. Good job. You got to be a motivator to encourage them to keep on pushing forward, to keep on maintaining, to stay in the game, to stay there and continue to allow that organization that you're over to grow. And they want to be a part of that team and they want to be involved. You've got to be willing to motivate and encourage and empower them to want to be successful and want the organization to be successful. Motivation through your actions and through your speech. You've got to be able to do that as a leader. Okay, it's a lot, huh? See, you said you want to be a leader. Okay, here we go. I'm giving you the guidelines right here. How about communication? You cannot relate or communicate with every team member the same way so that it gets in their head. There are different people at different levels and they learn differently. There's 4 of them that's really, really popular. And this is my last point that I'm going to make, before I do another one later, whenever God gives it to me. But communication, learning styles. There are 4 particular specific learning styles that you have to be aware of. And you have to figure out which one each team member will adapt to or be able to captivate what you're trying to communicate to them in the best way. So the first one is the kinesthetics, and that's a hands-on. That means you could talk to them all day long. You can give them books to read, woulda woo, but what you do is you show them, then you have them do it, and then you show them again if they messed up, and then you have them do it. They have to have hands-on. That's their best way of learning. You again, you could talk to the black and blue. You could give them a book to read, whatever the case may be. But the best way that they learn is by hands on. That's my way. If you're trying to teach me something, I like to touch it. You're trying to show me, tell me, okay, point. This is what you do. Okay, can I do it? Let me sit in the seat, and then you just let me know what I need to do. That's hands on. That's one type of learning style that maybe not all of your team will have, but someone will have that way, and that's their best way to captivate it. You can even ask them, what is your learning style? So that's number one. Number two, auditory. That's when they listen to you and you reinforce it verbally. You stand and you speak before them, they get it. It's like, okay. Then they might have to hear it one or two more times, but auditory is people who listen. They listen and they capture what you're trying to say. It's like, okay, all right, I feel you. There are many people in church who listen to the pastor and they get it because they're auditory, whereas some will hear him but may not get it until he starts to do the next one that I'm going to tell you about. Okay. So we got kinesthetic, which is hands-on, and then we got auditory, which are those who need reinforcement through hearing what you have to say, listening to what you have to say, the instructions that you're giving them, and then they may ask questions just so they have clarity. But once you tell them and they capture it, they're like, okay, I got it, I got you. I'm gonna get right on it, get right on it. So those are auditory people. The next one is the visual people. It comes through them drawing, writing, or even like a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, they've got to see it. They hear you, they may touch it, but they've got to see you present it. That is their best way. And visually, using some type of examples for them. Those are the visual people to actually see. There are many great pastors who use visuals to relate to those who have a learning style of visual examples. Um, Pastor Stephen Furtick, who's my pastor at Elevation. Whoop, whoop. Elevation UC is my house. Give it a shout out. But anyway, he's good with his visuals. He'll usually use people. He'll call them up and he'll use them as a visual example, or he may bring out props and use as an example. Not all the time, but most of the time. But he's making sure that he covers all the different aspects of people's different learning styles. And so that's how he's able to capture such a large membership, because how he can shift. You heard me? Yes, he can shift. So the last one, the reading, writing, self-taught. When I was attending college, I didn't go to a class because my learning skill is not sitting there listening to a teacher. I don't get it. I said that earlier. So this particular person, they're self-taught. Give me the books, give me the information, give me everything in writing, and then I'm going to read it and I'm going to teach myself. Okay. A equals B, crossover C. Okay. Let me put A here, B, crossover on C. All right. D, F, G. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. So it's kind of a combination of the kinesthetics and the visual. But their style is the reading, writing. So that's how they're able to learn and communicate. So you got kinesthetics, which is hands on. You got auditory, which is the listener who needs to hear it until they get it. And then you have the visual who needs to see it in a PowerPoint or a presentation or a drawing or writing that down. And then the reading, writing style, which is self-taught pretty much. You give them the information and then they'll just read over and review it and figure it out for themselves. So as a leader, there are so many um, attributes that you must have in order to be successful. And so I want to set you up for success. So that's why I am here. So again, leadership, what does it take? I've just told you. So next time we come back together, I got more information for you in order to be a successful leader. Thank you so much for tuning in. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to listen to me these last soon to be 15 minutes, and just learn that when you decide this is a step that you want to take in reference to leadership, go deep, go deep. Don't go surface, go deep. You know, there's a saying that I use: Are you a surfer? Or are you a scanner? Do you go deep, or do you just be on the surface? As a good leader, you need to go deep. Okay. And that's where I come in. So this is Coach Sue. I'm so glad you decided to join me again. Stay tuned next time, and I got more information for you to make you an amazing leader. Until then, peace out. Smooches.